This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should, too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go. Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida, this is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. Coming up on this week's show, a review of the Margaritaville at-sea Islander. That's the Margaritaville ship based in Tampa. But first, staff writer Richard Sims is on deck with cruise news as his cruise countdown is in full swing. How long do you have?
Well, let's see. I've got just over a week, and I'll be sailing on the Norwegian Agua, which I'm very excited about. I've done the Prima, but that was only like a preview of a day or two, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So this will be 5 days down to Bermuda and back.
First up, a potentially scary moment for guests aboard a Carnival ship that experienced quite the close call.
Okay, when I first heard this story, I was momentarily thrown by the fact that it features two things I don't normally associate. A Carnival cruise ship, or a cruise ship in general, and the Mississippi River. I don't really think much about the fact that cruise ships sometimes sail on rivers, but duh, of course they do. I mean, I sail out of New York. We sail on the Hudson. It's just a weird thing. You think of cruise ships as being on the ocean. But in this case, the Carnival Valor was heading up the Mississippi River on Monday. She was heading towards New Orleans, which is currently her home port, I believe. Apparently, the captain had to make a hard turn to avoid a cargo ship that had reportedly lost power. To avoid a potentially dangerous situation, the ship, meaning the Valor, slowed down pretty significantly and then changed course, causing the ship to list, or as landlubbers would say, to tilt. Video from guests on board show that the Lido deck was sort of flooded by the pool water, which had splashed over. And if you've ever been on a ship during rough weather, you know what that looks like. You know, the water, gets jostled right out of the pool. In this case, a lot of water was all over the Lido deck. In a statement, Carnival said, and I'm quoting here, "Vessel movements of this nature can occur during normal navigation, and the circumstances are being reviewed." Will we ever hear details as to the result of that review? Only time will tell. But yeah, I can imagine it must have, for just that couple of seconds, been a little bit of a scary situation.
Our next story here resulted in a couple of arrests.
Honestly, this one is kind of a nightmare and probably could have been a lot worse than it was. In fact, that might explain why the Brevard County Sheriff, when posting this story to Instagram, which they do whenever they make these kind of arrests, started it by saying, and I'm quoting here, this is the sheriff's office, "Okay, folks, it's time for another edition of the Chronicles of Cruising, Brevard County style." You live in that area. Am I saying that right? Brevard?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. Wasn't sure. They went on to explain that they had arrested two cruisers named Gannon Jasix and his girlfriend, Brooklyn Hicks. Apparently, they had had some drinks and they were arguing loudly, and the people in the next cabin asked them to keep it down. Instead, the allegedly intoxicated pair went into the stateroom of the people who had complained and got into a physical altercation with them. According to the report, the guy was recording while urging his girlfriend to beat these people up. It ended up being Jessex, the guy who allegedly hit three of the guests, including a 9-year-old child. According to the sheriff's office, and this is not me, this is the sheriff's office, who was kind of having fun with this report. They basically said that the woman went in and swung, but didn't do a very good job of connecting with anything. Anyway, there was a 9-year-old kid in the room who also was one of the people who got hit. Fortunately, and this is what I meant when I said it could have been much worse, nobody was seriously injured. The attackers, however, were arrested, and while the sheriff did not indicate which ship the incident took place on, several people reached out to our tip line to confirm for us that it was, in fact, the Carnival Freedom that had docked in Port Canaveral at the time of this.
And next up comes a rather unusual lawsuit, or maybe not so unusual because everyone is suing for everything these days, but it happened on a Norwegian Cruise Line excursion.
when a man bites a pig, it's not newsworthy. In fact, it's basically a rib dinner. But when a pig bites a man, well, that, my friend, is news, especially when the man turns around and sues the cruise line he was sailing with on the time of the incident. Jason Gordon was a passenger on the Norwegian Escape. This happened last August, so it was a year ago. The ship stopped at Great Stirrup Cay, and while there, he took part in an excursion, which we've all seen advertised. It invites people to go swimming with the pigs. I have never done this. I have never been tempted to do this. Doug, have you ever gone swimming with the pigs?
No desire to.
Same here. I'm like, I don't see the appeal of it. Dolphins, sure, that might be cool, but I've also never done that. But swimming with pigs, no. And here's a good reason not to, because while he was swimming with the pigs, he was bitten by one of them. He says this resulted in the need for stitches, antibiotics, and then he was worried about getting rabies, so he had the series of preventative shots, I guess, that you can get. His lawsuit claimed that NCL didn't properly warn people of the potential danger where pig bites and disease transmission are concerned. I mean, honestly, I'm like, if you're interacting with any wild animal, there is going to be the potential for them to bite you. It just seems like a given. But apparently, according to his lawsuit, they did not do enough to sort of explain that danger, and there were not enough precautions in place. So this is one that I do hope we get an update on as it goes to court, because I'd be interested to see. This is another one of those things, and we talk about it a lot on the show, where it's not necessarily, this one isn't necessarily about personal responsibility, but it is about sort of logic. If I do this, this could happen. It's like if you go skydiving out of a plane, your chute might not open. And then, do you sue the people, or is it a case of, that's a possibility? So I don't know. I'll be interested to see where this one goes.
And if you forget your shoes on a Carnival cruise, a bit of good news.
Okay, so it's not like they're going to hunt you down and mail them back to you, but thanks to a new program, they will find a new home for your shoes. Carnival's teamed up with a Miami-based organization called Sneaker Impact, which will take in those left-behind shoes and either make them available to small business owners in developing countries so they can be resold and generate some, money in the local economy, or if the shoes aren't in good enough shape, they'll be broken down and they get recycled and turned into things like yoga mats or parts of other new shoes being made. In the first month, and this is kind of incredible, in the first month, Carnival gathered more than 500 pairs of shoes. Now, when you think about it, Carnival has a huge fleet of ships, and you're like, okay, that's not that unusual. But then what you have to understand is, at this point, it has only been rolled out on 5 ships. So that means 100 pairs of shoes per ship. Carnival says that once rolled out across their entire fleet, they hope to give second life to around 50,000 pairs of shoes each year. Now, it's worth noting that these aren't just shoes that were left behind, but they can also be donated by guests or even crew members. So if you have like a ratty pair of shoes, and I've done this before, you have a ratty pair of shoes and you're going on a shore excursion and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to wear these into the water. It doesn't really matter. I'm planning on getting rid of them. Instead of then lugging them home and getting rid of them, or worse, being, a complete horrible person and leaving them on the beach or something, take them back and donate them if you are on one of the ships that's doing this. And soon it'll be across the entire Carnival Cruise Line fleet. So I just think this is such a cool story. I love that they're doing this.
More bad news for a National Geographic ship.
Yeah, Doug. So the National Geographic ships have been having a little bit of a rough time. So a few weeks ago, we reported that National Geographic Seabird, which is run by Lindblad Expeditions, experienced its 4th outbreak of gastrointestinal disease and or neurovirus in just over 4 months. So that was bad. Now comes word that another ship in their fleet, the Sea Lion, just barely squeaked by during their latest CDC health inspection. They scored an 86 out of 100, which is the lowest you can get and still pass. I know that in school, like an 85 would give you a B. No, when it comes to the CDC inspections, an 85 is a failing grade. Inspectors documented 44 different violations, including improperly stored food and problems with sanitation equipment. And honestly, those are 2 problems you don't want to deal with because, Improperly stored food could cause a lot of sickness on board, and sanitation equipment, well, I'd like things to be clean, thank you. Interestingly, the Carnival Breeze also scored an 86 on its last inspection, which is a real fall for that ship because it had 100 when it was scored in January. So something bad happened between January and the last time that they came on board. So far this year, only one ship has actually failed the inspection. Any guess what it was?
I do not know.
All right. Well, it was the Norwegian Dawn, and thank you very much for not reading ahead in the script and knowing and shouting out the answer. But it was the Norwegian Dawn, which scored an 84. And I mean, honestly, that's not great. But when you figure how low on a scale you could go, being like 2 points, 1 point below and failing is not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, if you ever want to find out these things, it's really easy to do. Just go online and Google something to the effect of like CDC cruise ship inspections, and it'll take you to a page and they will list. You can find out how your ship is done, which ships are doing badly, you know, if you just want to know. You know, I find myself very curious about these things. So it's really easy to find out if you ever want to.
Listener question comes from Sherry. This one's for you, Richard, because you live up that way. Do you have any tips for navigating the Manhattan Cruise Terminal?
I do. First of all, if you're booking a cruise and it says it's sailing out of New York, you really want to be careful. For example, I have a sailing coming up in September that says it's sailing out of New York, and a lot of people in the Facebook group that's associated with it assumed that meant it was sailing out of Midtown Manhattan. It is not. It is sailing out of Brooklyn, which is also considered New York City. So first, the biggest tip is to make sure that you're going to the right terminal. I've been to quite a few cruise ship terminals, and I have to say, I think the Manhattan Cruise Ship Terminal is one of the better ones I've ever been to. It's very well organized. A lot of cruise terminals, if you get there before your arrival time, they make you stand outside. That tends not to happen because this is a nice big space. So if you're early, you can just go in and take a seat. They may not necessarily let you check in depending on the cruise line, but they will let you into the building. So like if you're sailing in the winter, you don't have to stand out in the cold. Very well organized. It's a big terminal. There's a whole front section and a whole back section. The other thing to know is almost every single time I've been there, they know how big and confusing this terminal can be. And so they have people stationed right there in front, both where you come out of the elevators and where you are dropped off if you're coming by like taxi or something like that. They have people there. They have the official uniforms on, and they will happily look at your boarding pass and point you in the right direction. Because sometimes, like for example, if you're sailing on Norwegian, there are like 4 different places within the terminal they might send you. They might send you all the way to the front. They might send you to the side. If you're a casino guest, they'll send you one way. And if you're a Haven guest, they have a special room that they will cycle you over and put you in the Haven. But I will tell you, Manhattan is a great terminal to sail out of. I wouldn't necessarily say the same thing about Brooklyn. I've had some issues with Brooklyn, especially when it comes to finding it. It's a little bit difficult to find. I've had cab drivers who get a little confused because of the layout of like sort of the parking and everything that's up there. It looks a little bit like you're driving through mob country, but the Manhattan terminal is great, and parking is pretty readily available there, although book in advance. You do not want to get there and find that there's no parking and have to drive around the streets of Manhattan looking for a garage that somewhere you can park for a few days. You can very easily make your parking reservations in advance. Just go online, and it's real easy to do. It's not cheap, but it's easy, and it's smart. The smartest thing you can possibly do if you want to keep your car in Midtown Manhattan while you're sailing.
And just to add on to that, I would say on the back end of your cruise, make sure you double check what airport you're flying out of and where your transfer is booked to. I've been on a transfer before to JFK, and the person was supposed to go to LaGuardia. That's a pricey ticket.
And you're right. And that is an expensive mistake to make. Mm-hmm. Either because you end up having to take, like you said, an Uber or a Lyft or something, or because you miss your flight and you wind up having to, if you're lucky, get another flight. If you're not, maybe spend an extra day in the city, which isn't the worst thing in the world. It is New York City and there's a lot to do, but it might not be how you intended to end your cruise.
If you have a question, drop us a line, Doug@cruiseradio.net. Richard, as always, thank you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips at cruiseradio.net.
On this episode, we talked to Sue about the Margaritaville at-sea Islander. That's their newest ship that is based out of Tampa, Florida. We were really into the conversation when we started chatting. I didn't want to stop and do an intro. So we'll start the interview where Sue is telling me about the Margaritaville at-sea Islander against the reviews she read.
Absolute opposite end of the spectrum from all the horrible reviews that I had watched and read about the Paradise when they first launched. And boy, Margaritaville at Sea totally got their act together by the time they launched the Islander. What a completely different experience that was.
You're based in Dallas and you flew over to Tampa. Do you spend any pre-cruise time before boarding the ship?
No, actually, I cruised with my sister, and she's down in Cape Coral, which is a 2-hour drive to Tampa.
Right.
So we just drove up from her home the morning of the cruise, which is very foreign to me. I'm in Dallas. I mainly cruise out of Galveston. I shudder at the thought of trying to arrive the same day as a cruise. But so, yeah, there was nothing in Tampa other than trying to find the port, which was an interesting challenge because sometimes Siri lies.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Certainly. Once you find the port, how was embarkation? How long did it take you to get from the curb to the ship?
Probably 15 minutes. It was so unremarkable that when she and I were discussing this, so, I would have notes. So, for you, we were thinking, was there anything about it that really stood out? And actually, yeah, there is. One is that she decided to spend the extra $20 for valet parking, which is a bargain and a half, and we loved it. The other thing is I'm in a scooter. So I'm one of the last people to get polio before the vaccine was developed. And so I'm always in a scooter on every cruise. And I may as well be sporting a great big lime green flag that says, I'm special, take care of me. So embarkation is a joy for me because I am directed to special lines. And it was wonderful to be taken care of and treated like a VIP. So we bypassed everybody else. And so it didn't take any time at all to get through security and get on the ship.
Is there anything special that needs to be done or completed before you board the ship? Or is it like sailing Carnival, Royal, and Norwegian, where everything is done online and in advance?
That's pretty much the way it works. But in the terminal, they have, little like booths for you to make last minute purchases of like bar tab, bar treasure, whatever they call it, that kind of thing. But it really, that's one of the reasons it didn't stand out is this was cruise number 42 for me. And so they all kind of run together because everything's very similar. from cruise line to cruise line.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us about your first impressions. This was a former Costa Cruises ship and, of course, part of the Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville portfolio. So did it scream Parrot Head or island life as you walk around the ship?
That is a great question. Well, first of all, as you approach the ship, the painting on the hull just makes my heart happy. You know, there's just these shades of turquoise, and it looks laid back and inviting and celebratory before you even get on the ship. And then that decor continues as soon as you're on board, where you see this ginormous flip-flop in the flip-flop atrium. And you know you are on a Margaritaville cruise. The everything about the vibe of the ship, from the decor to just the atmosphere, is laid back, celebratory. We're here to have a good time, but not an obnoxious time. I've never experienced anything that just makes your heart so happy from the moment you get on board. It was delightful.
What kind of stateroom did you book for this sailing? And I'm curious, did that kind of airy Caribbean vibe flow into the stateroom as well?
It most certainly does. It was clear that when Margaritaville took it over, they were looking at every square inch of the public areas and the private areas. It was just lovely. Very happy. Again, the same cool blues that are very relaxing, and everything about the way the staterooms looked was extremely inviting. We were in an ADA room. We had an obstructed view, which everybody on that deck, which is deck 4, gets, I believe, because that's where the lifeboats are. You still get sunlight through the window, but you don't get the unobstructed view that you would on a balcony. But the time we were in our room, we really enjoyed the feeling of it was just a happy blue. I mean, that is absolutely the overwhelming color of the ship without being too much, which was really good.
With the location of your room on deck 4 there, were there any noise issues either above you or coming from below you?
Not a one, which was great. This was mid-May when we were on it, and probably most kids were still in school, which I'm sure it made a difference. But no, it was a very quiet experience.
Let's pivot and talk about the food here. So we'll go to the buffet first. Was it set up like your typical cruise ship buffet, and did it ever feel too crowded to you?
Yes, it was unremarkable compared to everything else. It didn't feel too crowded, no, and that's part of the reason for that, Doug, is it's a smaller ship. It's a Spirit class ship, and so there are quite a few less passengers on it, which, boy, you could tell no matter where we went in the ship, the whole sailing, you could just tell that there were fewer people, which also gave it a small town feeling. I kept seeing some of the same people as opposed to the mega ships. Mm-hmm. But back to the buffet, that's where the pizza is, which was really quite good and never had to wait long for it. As long as they have free included food, which apparently Margaritaville took their cue from Carnival, which I think has the best included food of any of the cruise lines. Their Mexican cutie cantina is like the blue iguana on Carnival. Like, for example, a breakfast burrito was just pitch perfect. The cheeseburger in Paradise isn't as good as Guy's Burger, but it was quite good. And as long as we've got these special places to go, like Cheeseburger in Paradise and the cantina, we didn't need to go to the buffet. Um, that's my least favorite place to get food on a cruise ship. So we were doing the main dining room for dinner every night, which was wonderful. But pretty much didn't spend much time at the buffet at all.
How does the main dining room work on the Islander? Are there different dining times, or is it just everything is like an open seating from like 5 to 9 or what have you?
It's more of an open seating. There are two dining rooms right above each other. One of them is a little bit more formal, the Islander, which has tablecloths. And that's why we chose to go there. It's just a little bit more upscale. The food is the same in both. The service was probably the best I've ever experienced on any cruise ship. It was always the food was temperature appropriate, and it wasn't memorable, but there was a good variety. There were plenty of choices. We did not do any specialty dining. I am the budget queen when it comes to cruising. And it was like, the choices that we have that we've already paid for are just fine. Thank you very much. So, the dining room, we could show up whenever we wanted to, and it worked out great.
What did you think of the entertainment, especially compared to all the cruises you've been on?
I was surprised by the quality of the entertainment. I didn't have real high expectations, but we were really pleased with what we saw. And it sure seemed that the singers and dancers were having a good time and pouring their heart and soul into it. Nothing stood out like it does often for people on the high end, like the Norwegian ships with the Broadway musicals and that kind of thing. But it was great for what it was, which is included entertainment. And we would get to the end of the show and go, well, that was nice. It wasn't mind blowing, but that's okay. We weren't expecting mind blowing. But that was nice is good enough, I think.
And how about music around the ship or events around the ship? Maybe a venue that might have caught your ear throughout the sailing?
So there is one lounge in particular where they have karaoke and events like Guess the Song, which, by the way, delighted me that it was not Jimmy Buffett 24/7. There was a very wide range of music being piped through and offered. And I've been to the Graceland Hotel in Memphis where it's Elvis, literally 24/7. That's all you ever hear. It's totally not like that. And since Jimmy Buffett is a musician and, he's got these diehard fans called parrot heads, the great thing about Margaritaville is that you don't have to be a parrot head to have a great time. Because I'm one of those people, I'm not a parrot head, unlike my sister. I like his music, but I like a whole lot of other stuff as well. And it was a great balance. The music was one of the great things about the ship. Really, really enjoyed the offerings. Also, there was in one of the dining rooms, there was something offered by the shore excursion staff of a sea glass mosaic. It was a craft class, basically, and it included 2 margaritas. And it was one of the most fun things I have ever done on any cruise. Part of it was, and maybe the biggest part was that where we were seated off in the corner, the shore excursion staff sat down at our table and joined us, and we had this wonderful conversation with new friends. And it was a great sea day activity. I'd never experienced anything like that before. Something
I learned recently within the past week or so is that this ship has a speakeasy on it. Did you make your way through there or in there?
I know about the speakeasy. It would only appeal to hardcore Jimmy Buffett fans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one, and my sister didn't care to spend the money on it. But yeah, I'm aware of it. It's a secret thing, and I think you pay for your ticket, and then you find out where and when. Apparently, those who have done it have really enjoyed it, but yeah, we did not.
Okay. So then how were the sea days as far as crowds and congestion on here? Because this ship is really known for its, I guess, space to passenger ratio. I'm probably butchering that, but it's built on the Carnival Spirit class platform, the ship is. So there's a lot of space on it. So I'm just curious how sea days were for you.
Oh, they were so much fun. We never felt crowded. And having been on some of the big ships, there's a big difference of how they'd move people around, and it was relaxed and just inviting, and I never felt pressured by the number of people. One of the things that I really enjoyed for sea days especially is the number of chairs and tables that are placed in front of windows so that you can look out at the water and thoroughly enjoy the fact that you are sailing, which we did quite a bit. We brought a cribbage board and dominoes, and we were just relaxed. And also, it was a great people watching opportunity, like to be established near one of the atriums where people would gather. But it never felt crowded, which was awesome. I loved that.
Yeah, especially these days, right?
Oh, my goodness. Yes. We had done an MSC cruise earlier in the year, and I've never felt so uncomfortable on a cruise ship in my entire life as I was by the crush of people at the buffet there. And it's like, I don't ever want to do this again. And it was a vast difference with the Spirit class ship. I loved it.
I was just interviewing someone yesterday, and they sailed on the MSC Maravilla, and I asked how the buffet was, and he said, couldn't tell you, too many people, too crowded, went in and walked right back out. So I guess other people also echo your sentiment.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you leave the port of Tampa Bay and you're heading out to the Western Caribbean, I take it. What was your first port of call?
There was only one. On a 4-day cruise, you get 2 sea days in Cozumel, which just makes me laugh, Doug, because I live in Dallas, and it's a 5-hour drive to Galveston, where almost every ship goes to Cozumel. And I counted it up at one point, and I think I've been there 20 times.
Wow.
More than any place I've ever not lived. So just, of course, we would, I would leave Texas and go to Tampa to get on a cruise ship, and we still end up in Cozumel. There's a place we go to, my sister and me and my husband and me, that is a 15-minute walk from the southernmost ports in Cozumel, a beach club that's adults only, and is the most amazing bargain. Del Mar Latino. It's like $40 for an all-inclusive, adults only, limit of 40 people. My favorite place in Cozumel. That's where I go every time, except that they were closed, or I think shut down for a private party the day we were there. So we didn't do that this time. We just decided to shop a little bit for vanilla and some jewelry. By the way, that's one of the reasons I cruise to Mexico, is because that's where I like to buy my jewelry. And because we could, we got off the Margaritaville at sea ship, and we went to Margaritaville on land for lunch.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, that's awesome.
It was fun. Been there, done that. We checked that off our bucket list. So, but It was also great to get back on the ship and, have basically like a half a sea day, because most of people are gone. And so Cozumel is a wonderful, delightful place. I really enjoy Cozumel. And I keep ending up going back there because that's where the ships go that we sail on.
Have you ever flown down the Cozumel?
Yeah. Did that for a weekend one time.
I was going to say that the flight down to Cozumel is about the same coming over to Tampa too.
Yeah, you're right.
Pretty much. Was there a lot of people in port, like a lot of ships in port when you were there?
Nope, there weren't. It was rather a slow day. We didn't see very many people in the port shopping area when we were there. And as a matter of fact, we went into a couple of jewelry stores and the proprietors were telling us, hey, you're the first people we've seen. And this was 11:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
It felt almost empty. It felt like a ghost town. We were the only ship at our pier. And it was a good reminder that when we get off the ships and we're shopping or going to restaurants that cater to the tourist industry, these people are not getting wealthy. We are putting food on their families' tables. And it's a good reminder of what a blessing the tourism industry is. And it makes such a difference in the lives of people. Yeah,
it certainly is. Whereabouts does the ship dock? Because there's 3 cruise terminals there in Cozumel. The International, San Miguel, is it? And then Porta Lungusta or something like that?
Yeah, so Porta Lungusta is the one near downtown. And so I think Norwegian docks there, MSC, and a few others. And then about a 10-minute drive south of there in a cab, there are 2 southern piers. One is all Carnival ships. The other one is usually where Royal Caribbean docks, and that's where Margaritaville was. So we were at the Royal Caribbean pier.
Gotcha. All right. So you make you have a nice day there and get your vanilla and get back on the ship there, the Margaritaville at Sea Islander, and you're starting to head back to the Port of Tampa. Anything exciting happen on your return?
I am happy to say no, because it's like going to the dentist or in an airplane, Doug. We don't want exciting or memorable. We want boringly uneventful.
How was your weather?
It was perfect. Which I'm so grateful for.
So once you make your way back to Port Tampa Bay there, how was the debark process?
It was unusual because the Tampa terminal for where Margaritaville was sailing out of was under construction. They were upgrading and updating it. And so everybody had to get off right onto the concrete floor, basically, to go on into the terminal. And they had people going downstairs to get out to the gangway. Well, I can't do that in a scooter. And so we were in line, not knowing that we were heading towards stairs. And I was so delighted that actually some of the shore excursion staff that we had been with the day before saw us with me and my scooter and said, you need to come with me. We're going to take you to a special door. And we had to go to some sort of elevator to get down to debarkation because clearly couldn't go down the steps. It was very unusual. They had to tell everybody, we're really sorry that this is inconvenient, but it also, it's only happening for like 2 sailings. So once we got into the terminal, it was the same as it always is, in terms of getting our luggage, having a porter help. And they've got face recognition technology, so we never had to pull out our passports. Just sailed right on through.
How did the valet pickup work when it was time to get off the ship? Because I can imagine, dropping off, it's always pretty seamless because it's staggered, right? But it seems like everyone's getting off the ship at the same time. Did it feel like they were overloaded, or was it pretty efficient?
I was surprised at how efficient it was. Now, part of it is we stayed in our room until they kicked us out. It's rude. They do that every time I cruise, Doug. I mean, it's like, you have to leave. So we were some of the last people, and was the last group, to get off. So a lot of people had already exited. It maybe took 10 minutes for them to get the car. And we were so impressed. We're going back next May, and we'll be doing the exact same thing because it really worked out well.
Any tips to offer someone considering sailing the Margaritaville at Sea Islander out of Tampa?
I do. There's always a Facebook group for each sailing. Reading that and the Margaritaville Islander general group is very helpful for people posting their experiences, answering questions. You can get on board with a real strong idea of what to expect, and minimize the surprises. I can't recommend that highly enough. Another thing that we both did was bring lanyards that we had gotten on Amazon. We brought that from home. And when we got on the ship, we had there was a little stand of people selling Margaritaville lanyards, and we had them punch our card, basically your sign and sail card, for the lanyards. And another thing is to bring your own water bottle, because if you're on a cruise and there's often a lot of both soda and alcohol drinking, you really need to stay hydrated. And so bringing your own water bottle really helps. Another thing is to go with an open mind. It's not the same as every other cruise you've ever been on. It's older. It's all smaller. There are no bells and whistles like on the big, beautiful new hardware with other cruise lines. And so that makes a difference. I don't know how many of your listeners are going to be in my position of being in a wheelchair or a scooter, but it was there was a surprise that because it's an older ship, the doors are heavy, like doors to the public restrooms it was real interesting to get in and out of them because there was no ADA help in terms of push button door assistance. And every time I would go from the inside of the ship to the outside to get out on one of the decks, there was usually a challenge in terms of the thresholds. So my scooter would get stuck. I depended on other guests and maintenance workers to literally help me get over the hump to get outside. But that was a minor inconvenience. It wasn't a deal breaker. But that was something that made a difference. And there's one other thing that I have to mention. The most significant highlight of the whole cruise was the military tribute, and I am verklempt just thinking about it, Doug. It was super crowded in this atrium, as well it should be, and they were honoring first responders from every branch of the military, and firefighters and nurses and police officers, ambulance drivers, and anybody who was a first responder. It was so full of respect and honor. I cried off half my makeup. It was so moving, unlike anything I have ever seen. And it was incredibly special. That was the highlight of the whole cruise for me.
Is their military appreciation event a lot like Carnival Cruise Lines, where people stand up and speak on behalf of someone who's no longer with us?
That did not happen. It's Carnival does an amazing job as well, but the way it was done on Margaritaville was, chef's kiss. It was phenomenally well done. Very, very moving.
You mentioned that you booked an ADA stateroom on deck 4, but other parts of the ship seem to be a challenge for your scooter. It seems like 2026, there would be a little more ease as far as navigating in a scooter.
Yeah, but it takes, I think it takes so much money to update per ADA guidelines. And like for example, the Paradise that sails from the west coast of Florida, they have no ADA rooms whatsoever. It's really an old ship. And so I was grateful to have what we got, but it also made me realize how wonderful it is to be on the newest ships. And it doesn't matter which cruise line. The ADA accommodations are amazing on the newer ships.
Did you feel like the value was there for the price you paid?
I would say it was a 12 out of 10.
Okay. Nice.
I loved it. Yes. And to the point where we got off and said, cannot wait to go back and do this again.
I skipped over this by accident, but the Margaritaville at Sea Islanders Casino. Now, I know it is non-smoking, but did you go in there and play at all?
We stopped at one point because my sister wanted to do video poker, which they had, and not all cruise ships do. And I patiently waited for her to lose her money, and then we moved on. One time we went to Las Vegas for a family wedding, and I said, okay, I need to experience the casino. So I took $5 and changed it into nickels, and I quickly turned my $5 into $2.65 and went, I could go up to our room, throw these nickels in the toilet and flush the handle and get the exact same thing. So right. I'm not a fan of the casino, but we did go through it several times because that's how they do it. They get people going through the casino, but it wasn't smoky.
Well, Stu, this was an awesome conversation. I thank you for taking the time to chat about the Margaritaville at Sea Islander. One thing before we leave here, though, I want to ask you your final thoughts of the ship.
It's now one of my favorite cruise ships and favorite cruises ever. And I'm so looking forward to doing it again. I have another one booked for next May, and I'm really looking forward to experiencing the very specialness of what they have to offer, particularly sensing that their crew and staff really enjoy their jobs and they enjoy the people that they take care of. It just really, really filled my joy tank. And I cannot recommend it highly enough.
This again was a 4-night sailing on the Margaritaville at Sea Islander out of Tampa Bay. Susan, thank you again.
It's a joy to visit with you. I'm your number one fan, Doug. And so that's one of the first, when I open up YouTube, you are the very first thing I check every morning. So I love following what you're doing. And like I posted earlier today, I love your tip line that we get to hear things that other people aren't reporting on. And for years, I've been praying for you, and I'm so grateful for what you do and who you are. You are a delight.
Well, I appreciate that. The news, the cruise news today was only supposed to be a thing during COVID. And then my dad watched it every morning. Once I learned that, after he passed, I just kept doing it in his honor. So that's pretty much why I'm still doing it, just because it's he loved watching it every morning. And if I was 10 minutes late, he's like, "Are you not doing an episode today?" I'm like, "Dad, I just got back from Europe. Let me just regroup and I'll have it up there. I promise." So yeah, that's why it's still going on.
Oh, I love knowing the backstory on that. And you should know, too, that every time I see a pilot boat, or watch a YouTube short from a ship pilot, I am reminded of you and your dad. And I continue to pray for God to comfort your heart. I know that was a big blow to you. And so thank you for sharing that with me. That just really blesses me.
Yeah, thank you again for the kind words. I'm not one to talk about myself, so it's always good to hear when someone's getting some value out of what I'm doing. So I appreciate that, and we'll talk soon. Anytime you cruise again, feel free to reach back out.
That will be great, Doug. I appreciate you so much. Take care.
Take care now. You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,